and the last young first. The basic instructions before leaving knowledge is wisdom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bianca Collins. I'm the Curator of Public Programs for the Fowler Museum at UCLA. Thank you for joining us today or tonight, depending on where it is you're tuning in from around the world. The Fowler is proud to present today's program with DEFER as part of our Disrupt the Fowler series. Disrupt is a student-run UCLA organization that aims to establish inclusive spaces and create opportunities for students of all backgrounds to engage in creative collaborations. The Fowler is honored to partner with Disrupt to offer programs that break down barriers in the art world and promote innovative ideation through inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Before I introduce our program, we have a quick announcement from Steve Z about some upcoming projects Disrupt is working on.
Hi guys, I'm just going to quickly share my screen. All right. I just want to say thank you for tuning in first. And I'm Steve. I'm a signatory of Disrupt. We are a student organization aspiring to create a platform for you guys to express your ideas and thoughts. I know a lot of you guys are from, DESMA, art departments, or any other background. If you have an artwork that you want to show to everybody, we got you covered. I'm announcing 2 public student shows happening in week 10 on the Hills. So the left one is called Mini Gallery and the right one is projection mapping. Basically what we want to do is we're going to put up easels, promotion stands, and projectors in the Neuf, Hedrick, Weber, and Olympic in the plazas, and we're going to collect your artworks and showcase them and have students interact with them publicly in the outdoors. This is happening in week 10, so less than 2 weeks from now. I'm going to put out 2 Google Form links in the chat so that if you guys are interested, you can submit your artwork. And also, if you have any questions, I'm going to be sticking around towards the end, so feel free to ask by then. Thank you. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. Steve will also be leading our audience question and answer, so we'll hear from you again soon. All right, so DEFER is renowned as one of the pioneering members of the LA graffiti scene. Though his name has become synonymous with West Coast street art, his distinct flowing hand style and spontaneous typographic spiritual language are equally at home in fine art spaces, such as LA Louver, the Getty Research Institute, and Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Today, DEFER will be in conversation with Gustavo Tepetla, and we'll share more about how he built his career and what inspires his art, including Asian calligraphy, the Mexican-American community of LA, and the use of stream of consciousness to weave deeper social and political commentaries into his work. DEFER has been an integral part of the early graffiti art movement in LA, going back to the mid-1980s, and is known for expertly rendering beautiful, complex letter forms. His works on canvas have been displayed at various museums and galleries, including, again, LA Louver, GRI, LACMA, Pasadena Museum of California Art, and OTIS College of Design's Ben Maltz Gallery. His work has been featured in numerous publications, including Art in America, the LA Times, and Forbes. Before we get going, I have a quick technical bit of housekeeping. Once the screen sharing begins, I encourage you to click View Options and then select side-by-side mode so the video feed doesn't cover the presentation. And if you have questions, please do submit them through the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, that's all from me. Over to you, DEFER and Gustavo.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? Good, good, y'all. Hey, DEFER, good to have you here.
How you doing?
Good,
Yeah,
good.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on. You're good. We're good. We're live.
Cool, cool. All right, we're live.
Again, thank you for joining us today and being a part of this. As you know, our mission here is to create spaces, especially for artists who otherwise wouldn't be able to be within these spaces and share the art. And we admire your work and we admire your story first of all, and all the things that you've achieved. So definitely a big thank you for being here. All right, so we're just gonna dive right into this. So can you tell us about this piece? And this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna be having a conversation. So for those of y'all viewing us today and tuning it in, this is a conversation. DEFER and I, we're gonna just be chilling and talking about these pieces.
Sounds really good. Yeah, this particular piece. Oh yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in, and props DISRUPT, UCLA, and how we do. Yeah, this particular piece right here I did for the LA Louver, the Sky Room, and this was like the 42nd anniversary of the show, I think. So they never had a installation / painting on the walls. So they initially asked me to paint the back wall, and I went crazy. I just said, hey, I'm gonna paint everything, you know, and I wanted it to be totally immersive. Like when you walk in there, it's like you walk into a vortex. And the thing with this one, it was only supposed to be up for 30 days. So I was like, oh man, like once I started doing it, I was like, oh man, I think I maybe bit off more than I could chew. So I was like, oh, but I went all out anyways. I said, okay, if it's going to be up for 30 days, I have to be able to let it go and, you know, just go all out in the work and, you know, do my best. And this to me is like a kind of this piece is kind of signifies when you have a passion for art. You're not just thinking about, okay, how long is it going to be up for? What am I going to get for it? Or what kind of, you know, return? This is, you know, you have to, sometimes you just have to give everything for nothing. It might be destroyed. It might be gone over. It, you know, it may be forgotten, but that's where I think the true testament of an artist is, you know, going all out on every project you sign up for or
So
trying to.
let me ask you this. So what do you expect, or what do you hope, like people that are, you know, walking into this installation experience, or what's the takeaway from your work, or what do you hope that they take away?
Yeah, well, just being the fact that you know, initially it was only going to be up for 30 days. Once I signed up for painting everything, I was like, wow, did you really sign up for this? But it ended up going longer than that. I'm going to say 90 days, maybe. They extended it, but I didn't really have any initial expectations, you know, like what are people going to think? But what I wanted to create was an all immersive vortex. Basically every wall was hit, the floor, the only thing that was open was the sky, you know what I mean? And you know, I wanted it to be like an immersive, that was basically my goal, was to have the viewer walk in there and be immersed in artwork, in the spiritual language. And that was basically my, you know, it ended up being my goal and what I wanted from it, in terms of, you know, if I were to be the viewer, to walk in there and see this all-encompassing work of art.
Yeah, definitely. It does remind me a lot within virtual spaces of a skybox. So for those of y'all that are familiar with designing in Unity or Maya or any of the softwares to create VR, AR work and so forth, this looks and feels like a skybox. So it feels like a fully immersive experience or environment. So yeah, this is great. This is phenomenal. And you actually have the actual sky. So yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yes.
We move to the next slide? Okay, let's talk about this piece here. Especially, like, I really want to know like your personal background and how this is influencing your artwork today.
So I grew up as a kid in Boyle Heights, California, Los Angeles. And I lived by this park called Hollenbeck Park. So, you know, when breakdancing came out, we used to run around there, and it was very grassroots. We'd get cardboard and breakdance, and we'd see a lot of the neighborhood graffiti, but that was very, you know, back then it was very taboo or dangerous. You didn't talk about it. You kind of just minded your business. You walked past it. And also there was also murals that were done by the East LA streetscapers, Willie Heron, very, very socio-political murals. And as a little kid, obviously, those murals became like my education. I looked at the walls and like, who's this guy right here? And it was, oh, that's Cesar Chavez. You know what I mean? Because, this is Emiliano Zapata, Pancho Villa, also known as Doroteo Arango. So I learned a lot about these cultural historical icons in my, on these walls. And so they were my educator as a kid, just being inquisitive and wanting to, learn different things. So the walls were my educators. And then also, I was inspired by my father, which he was an architect. And, he was very particular about his work. And, I think it may have hindered him a little bit financially because he didn't take on any project. He wanted to make sure everything was up to his standards, and he was very immaculate with his typography when he do his rough, his blueprints and his drafts, his floor plans, his elevations. So I used to mimic a lot of his typography, and it was very straight, linear. And then, once breaking was out, we didn't have YouTube and all these social media channels, but they'd show videos like late at night. And I saw a video called Buffalo Gals, and you only saw this glimpse of graffiti. Didn't know what it was, kind of, because it was from the East Coast, so it was kind of mysterious, but it was, synonymous with breaking. It was like in the background. So, everything was grassroots back then. So basically, kind of mixed with all these things I saw on my walls in my neighborhood, plus little glimpses I got from the East Coast, from little movies. And then, I saw Style Wars, which was predominantly about New York graffiti in the early 80s. That definitely, I think I infused everything and kind of came out with my style, and I think it's a mixture of, it's like a melting pot or a fusion of all those influences.
Yeah, I can definitely notice, especially the architectural style. I was dabbling in architecture growing up, and I just remember like using, because I'm old school. So this is pre-CAD, AutoCAD, pre-Rhino, pre-everything. We had a triangle, which is our straight edge, and then we had our bar in the bottom, as also a straight edge, and that's how we made our line. So we grab our pencil, and we literally we just swipe up or swipe down and give a flare, and then straight edge rounding out like to make an R, and I see how that translated also into your typography. So it's like the perfect marriage of graffiti style, and then also just to like go back, right, because you touch base on a lot of like the old school influences growing up within movies and whatnot. But in LA graffiti culture, I remember there was something that we used called prime letters, which were basically like architectural letters that everybody started out from originally. And I don't want to generalize and say everybody used it, but they were just like regular letters that you started with, and then you bubble them out or create your own shapes out of. But those are like pretty much standard across the board, like when you were just starting out. So I believe there was an artist who would definitely use those letters, and it was a big influence. But I can definitely see it, and you've adapted and you've created and fused, and I mean, you have your own unique style. So yeah, it's amazing. Can you let us know in this particular piece why it's formed in the specific way that it is? Like you have some rectangular shapes, but the way that you laid them out, is there some significance to that?
Yes, for this, I wanted to bring this up because this was the latest major project I did with Hyatt and Thompson Hotels. So this is basically my typography, but then it's in the form of these rectangles, which is the logo for Thompson Hotels. So I kind of wanted to show this, how you can use your art for to infiltrate different venues, and it could be used in different ways in terms of showcasing your artwork, exhibiting your artwork and stuff like that. So this was actually on the rooftop of the Thompson Hotel, and basically that's overlooking Hollywood, the city of Hollywood Hills. And it's basically my typography is just melded into their logo, And it's just a kind of a, like I said, it's just kind of a way that I wanted to show how your art could be used in certain ways, you know, to be displayed in a different form or fashion.
Definitely. Can we see the next slide? All right, this was interesting when I saw this image. What's going on in this image?
Oh yeah, you know what? I wanted to. This is for my buddy Bear, and he owns a business, and he wanted to acquire a painting, and I wanted to show this picture. I just thought this was so cool because we were figuring out how to get this painting into his into his residence, and it just goes to show that sometimes, you know, if there's a will, there's a way, right? And I think with art, there's always, you know, things you have to think about. There's a lot of behind the scenes movement, and there's a lot of what happens behind the scenes, what happens in solitary, because, you know, especially if you create your own art, like, you know, individually, there's a lot of work and a lot of solitary time and discipline that goes into creating these pieces. And this is just shows how, how artwork is, you know, transported sometimes, and just a lot of crazy shenanigans that go on behind the scenes. And I thought this was a kind of a fun picture, you know, and to show that, you know, art can be whatever you make of it. And this is just dynamic and unconventional.
Oh, so what city is this in, if you don't mind me asking?
It's in Orange County. Yeah.
Orange County. Okay. So let me jump into this question here, right? Because we know that you're from Los Angeles, right? Because you
Yes.
From Los Angeles. But what does Los Angeles mean to you? Like, what's the significance of Los Angeles to you?
Oh, well, it's home. I'm born and raised in LA. So I was born in Kaiser Permanente on Sunset. And this is the city I was born in. And I mean, it's hard to say what LA is now because I've seen it go through so many changes, right? You know, a lot of changes where I think now it's a lot more diversified and obviously gentrified. And so I think the city since I was a kid, it's been shaken up a lot. You know, it's been through some turbulent times, LA riots, you know, different kind of uprisings and stuff like that, poverty. You know, you see a lot of changes. You see the socioeconomic changes, you know, and so LA to me is it's home. It's home. LA's home, you know, it's home, and it's just simply, that's what I would say, it's home, and it's my terrain. You know, this is my ground zero.
I hear that. Yeah, that resonates. Slide, please. Okay, what's going on here?
Oh, speaking of Los Angeles, I did this for LAFC, Los Angeles Football Club, and this is a LA soccer team, football, you know, and I did this with Secret Walls and LAFC, and this was a fun project because it's in the heart of the city, you know, basically, you know, I love using gold too, and that's their colors. So they picked me to do this mural. And then I went in there with my buddy, one of my homies, Donks, helped me out too. Good youngster from my crew. And I just just smashed this wall. And I actually did it like in a day and a half, maybe. Oh. You know, yeah, because they were under some time constraints, and they had like a game on Friday, and they didn't finish painting the wall till it was like Wednesday, you know. So it was like back to back to back to back, and it was kind of hard because a lot of people asked me for a preliminary sketch and stuff like that, but I don't really, you know, I could never draw this out before I did it because the magic happens on the spot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, if people, you know, when I do works of art, I do them from scratch. So this this particular piece, I just went at it. You know, I knew I had limited amount of time, and we had limited amount of time where we had to be in there and be out of there, right? I think it closed at 5 or whatever. So we pack up by, 5:30 and we're out. And I think I started the first day from, I think the first day they weren't really ready. Some of the parts were painted. So I said, man, I'll start on some of the dry parts. And I worked for like 3 hours. And then the next day I came in from, I don't remember, maybe 12 to 5 or something like that, or 1 to 5, and knocked it out. So, and then my buddy Oleg and his wife came through, and they helped photograph. And Marcus too, he made an incredible video. Props out to them. Takes teamwork to make the dream work, you know?
Yeah, that's for real. That should be a shirt.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to ask you something relating to this, right? Because in almost all of your work, I noticed how like you use your typography, and there's a lot of repetition until it literally becomes a motif, like covering the whole wall. In one of your past interviews, you had mentioned that sometimes you just let your mind flow, right? Which goes into the whole like, I don't draw it ahead of time. I just like, it just happens on the spot, right? Is this like a conscious choice, or is it just spontaneous? You're just like out there, you're just creating, just letting it all, come out from, your mind to the brush to the wall.
Yeah. So, when I hit these spots, it's almost like I reach this sublime state, and it's almost like automatic painting, where it almost feels like sometimes I'm channeling, to where sometimes I'll look at a painting, I'm like, I don't even remember doing it. I was like in a dreamlike state, if that makes sense.
It does.
Almost like being in the Matrix or something, where I kind of like look at things and I lose track of time, and I don't know how it gets done. I mean, because sometimes people are kind of fascinated on how fast I work and how freely I work, and it's basically sometimes, and I'm always moving forward too. So I don't kind of like stay, like I'm going to keep talking about this piece. Once it's done, the count goes back to 0.
And this
I
is
go
all
back. Yeah, that's all freehand right there. Yeah. So, yeah, so everything's freehand. And then, sometimes they'll ask me to put certain words in there, and I was like, yeah, cool. I'll put the city in there, the LAFC, and, that helped me out a lot, because it's like, especially with commissions, you want to kind of, I like to collaborate, get input, you know what I mean? And, cause I've written, I think, every word in the dictionary.
Now, this looks good though. We're going to move to the next slide.
Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead, bro.
Oh no, you could lead, brother. I'm telling you, this is just great. I wanted you to jump in and just let us know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. Sometimes, I'm just like kind of get anxious or whatever.
Oh, we're having a conversation here, so it's open. Like we're here. We might be in 2 different parts of the city right now, but we're still chilling. We're vibing. So yeah,
but we're here. This is a collaboration I do with Estevan Oreo, iconic LA photographer, good friend of mine, homie, and basically we were these hands are basically iconic. I mean, they've been all over the world, and me and homie, we collaborate, on different projects and stuff like that here and there, and it's a good 1-2 punch, And this one in particular, we were kind of inspired by 2020, because 2020 was a lot of turmoil, right? But I had a theory behind it, you know what I mean? Because I said, 2020 means perfect vision, right? Or alignment, right? So my theory on that was, in order to get everything aligned, it has to shake, right? Whenever you when your car's tires are off track or off the line, they have to rumble them and shake them to get them together. So my thing was 2020 was going to be a time of growing pains, of alignment. And I said that in 2019. You know what I mean? And that was my prophecy. And we were in the heart of the city. And he's basically an action journalist. He wants to go into where the fire is the hottest. He's going to be in the trenches. And that week was filled with a lot of anxiety. We had a lot of there was a lot of uprising and stuff. Especially with some of the social issues and social justice issues that were going on. yeah, I mean, you could imagine it was like a melting pot of turmoil. You know, you had a crashing economy, you had a pandemic, you had, you know, this, that, and the third. So it kind of seemed like waves of different things that were, you know, these waves of different issues that were affecting people throughout the city. So it was basically a tumultuous time. And but I said, you know what? I think we're gonna win some championships. You know what I mean? And you know, 2020, you know, Dodgers and Lakers, double champs. You know, and so this is kind of a homage to the city. It's not done yet, but one part. This was kind of Esteban's idea. It was like, yeah, we should do one side Lakers, one side Dodgers. You know what I mean? And kind of blue and gold, and you know, split down the middle. You know, and you know, kind of paying homage to the city. You know, and yeah, it was basically this is a homage to the city, homage to the teams, and also in memory of a lot of things that happened, you know, because it seemed like 2020 was a turning point for a lot of people. You know, a lot of things, you know, families were broken apart, businesses were crushed, you know, people died, you know what I mean? So it was globally, right? 2020 was basically like this, you know, benchmarker year where things have been different and are different from then to now and still presently, correct?
Definitely. I see it as like a big reset, you know, like a big reset was hit. There was a lot of things that were ongoing, continuously going, and somebody hit that reset button. And I think that's the path that we're taking now. Again, this is my opinion, y'all.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, we're headed towards a better path now, because we saw how broken, or not technically broken, sometimes by design, how things were affecting and impacting the communities. So yeah, I think we're moving forward. We're going to move to the next slide. Okay, so I did want to ask you something in regards. This is going to go back to the motif question. I noticed that a lot of your work, and even in past interviews, you mentioned that a lot of your typography in your work is very spiritual, right? So I wanted to ask you, what makes it spiritual? And then also, just like a second and third question would be, some religious folks would say that's considered a ritual, you know, like repeating patterns and whatnot. But a scientific mind would consider patterns to be a frequency, because, you know, frequency is just a pattern that repeats. It's not necessarily a wave. It's more like of a repeating pattern that a wave catches. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, what, you know, I get what you're saying, you know, because the spirit is the unknown, the X factor, correct? Because you have the physical, you have the mental, right? That's, you know, that's matter, right? I mean, that's, you know, that's something. You got your arms, you got your legs, you got your body, you have your mind, you know what I mean? And then, you know, but spirit is that unseen force, right? Correct. And it's to me, I wouldn't want to generalize, you know, like, oh, this is spiritual. It's just, to me, it's the unseen force. And I don't think us humans can comprehend or articulate what it really is, right? And I don't think, you know, that's the thing where I think it's of that magnitude that goes back to creation. We still don't have creation figured out, right? You know, is there intelligent design, evolution? You know what I mean? What came first, chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
So it's basically, you know, you know, so there are these unknown factors, you know what I mean? Even Einstein said, I'm trying to figure out the mind of God, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's always this intersection between faith and reason, right? You know what I mean? You have to physically get things done. You can't just pray on things. You know what I mean? So it's somewhere in the middle, right? You know what I mean? And that's why I don't really. I think it goes so deep, and I think a wise man will say he doesn't know, because that's the truth, right? You know what I mean? I don't know.
That is the truth. And then I'm just going to drop something in, just a little gem someone broke down to me recently. They said a blessing is when preparedness meets opportunity.
Exactly. Thank you.
So
Amen. Amen, Gus.
A little bit of both. Yeah, I got you, man. So it's a little bit of both, right? You have to be prepared, and the opportunity has to present present itself.
Exactly.
And then that's the meeting. That's the blessing. That's when, you know, that explosion, energies, and, you know, so forth happen. And I see a lot of that occurring in your work, because I see how far you've propelled. I mean, you're getting into these spaces. We'll even touch base on this image since it is up, right? And you're collaborating with artists like Esteban Orio, being featured in gallery spaces, working with such companies. So I'll let you touch base on this. I even see a tribe. Is that a tribal logo on the door?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, that was something else, but as far as the logos and you know, I basically this was a crazy one. This is part of the journey, I guess, where, you know, I drove up to Portersville to one of our homies, Stone Cold has he has a body shop out there, paint shop, and he does some really great you know, pinstriping, painting, you know what I mean, really artistic. And I was hired by our friend Hammond Meredith to do this this truck, which is a Ford Velociraptor. And yeah, our buddy Johnny Crash, Dan Dino, West, you know, West Grown, B, you know, we have a little crew. And yeah, but I drove out here personally to represent Soul Assassins and, you know, to smash this car. And it was crazy. I did it in like an hour and a half, the whole thing.
Wow.
Oh, that's where the unseen force comes in. You know what I mean? Where yeah, where it was like, okay, I physically did it, but then sometimes like, how did I get it done so fast? You know, and I basically, yeah, I wrote words. I had a list of words going in there. Like, so I was able to meld and bend and everything without doing any guidelines or anything, just march right through it.
Wow.
You know, and that goes back to, I'm gonna interject something with that. I read this book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you ever read that. You know, he wrote Outliers, just different things. But this book was about rapid mind cognition. You know, where your mind actually, like we only use like, you know, 9% of our mind or whatever, give or take, right? You know, some of us less, but you know, but it basically, what it taught me was to trust my instinct and my mind's reflex, you know, and through that process, I've kind of almost like, how would I, to visually maybe draw an analogy or whatever, would be like Star Wars, trust the Force, Luke, right? You know what I mean? Right. Trust the Force. And you know, you know, on these, I can't make mistakes, you know, because it's one shot paint. It has paint hardener. So I have to paint at a certain pace or the paint goes hard, right? And so that's where I'm saying there's the X factor, there's the spiritual, there's the unseen. There's the thing that, and I think like the Native Americans say, the great mystery, right? The great mystery. What is it? It's the great mystery. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, it's the great unknown. Yeah, it's the great mystery. You know,
yeah, the great unknown, the great mystery. Yeah. However it translates over, unknown, mysterious, mystical, right? You know what I mean? So I'm into that. You know what I mean? I'm into that because I've seen mystical things happen that are unexplained. You know what I'm saying?
We're going to go into the next slide because I think this might touch base on some of that. Actually, let's go to the last slide.
Okay.
That one there. We can go back to the other ones, but this right here, because we're on that mystical frequencies. And I do want to touch base on that, right? Because a lot of the unseen, that force, right? That X factor, that unknown, we have different names for it. You know, we do channel that energy. And a lot of the times within the language as an artist, depending on what type of artist you are, we call it a medium. And if you start getting into the words, defining the words, doing the etymology of the words, what a medium actually is, right? So you're you're grabbing from the metaphysical, from the source. You know, if you're a coder, you're grabbing from source, you're pulling down, and you're manifesting it through your medium, your preferred medium, and to the physical plane, into the physical world, so that others can experience it. So I see a lot of that in your work, especially this piece here. I mean, there's
Yeah, this piece right here was basically I basically, yeah, this is a very spiritual piece to me because I was in a sublime state when I painted this, you know, in terms of because I'm a visionary. I dream, you know what I mean? I see visions, and sometimes I have to paint my visions, right? And you know, I was thinking about, you know, like the X factor, X, you know, that's what I call this piece. So there's an X in the middle, and that's the X factor. And through these visions, I saw a face. A face started coming through the vortex, through the center. And you know, these vortexes are basically mandalas, Aztec, you know, calendars, you know, these circles, the circle of life, right? It traces back, and there's a commonality that transcends everything, right? Every culture almost. And to find this center vortex, I was in a sublime state, meditative state, isolated. It was just me and my dog, you know, my dog Buddy. Much love to Buddy. But yeah, I was just digging in deep, and I also was inspired by the phoenix rising from the ashes. You know what I'm saying?
right. I hear you.
So, yeah. So I basically came in deep on this painting, and it encompasses a lot of spiritual language, which is an obliteration of the structured letter, which I term spiritual language, because there's, you know, calligraphy, typography, wild style, blockbusters, right? But this is an obliteration. This is automatic painting. This is channeling. This is a deeper spirit. It's supposed to move. It's visual language. Visual language. That's what it is.
Yeah, I see that too. And then just to chime in too, like spiritual, like just breaking down the word again, you know, going back to its origin of what it means. Spiritu means to spiral. And in
Exactly.
a lot of you do see the cipher, the circle, full circle, where some of these events are taking place. And one of the rituals would be to dance around in the circle, or around the center of a fire within the circle, the eye of the circle. For some folks up in Northeast Africa, which now we call, you know, the Middle East, in some of the cultures, you'll see that people will actually spin, like that's part of, you know, channeling, or being a part of, you know, the higher God, the higher being. So spiritu, the spiral, even I'll just drop another gem. Like there's a spiral on the top of our head, right?
Yeah.
And they say this is where consciousness lives, right? That's us, and this is just like our physical form out here. But this brain, this spiritu, is what's channeling it all. So yeah, it's deep to me. Again, it speaks to me. It resonates with me, and especially just seeing the symbolism, like the repeating pattern, the motif in this spiral form definitely communicates to me. So yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, that's where it's to me, it's not calculated. It's almost organized chaos, right? You know, and it like, that's where I want my art to be, to hit a sublime state, you know, for it to be, you know, I could do simple stuff, but I could also do some complex stuff, where if you want to try to copy, you're gonna have to decode the matrix. You know what I mean?
Right. And just to chime in again, because wow, like now you got me going on my mind. It's organized chaos too. I also see it as like chaos being like learning how to walk and run, right? We're actually just learning how to fall.
Yeah.
And then the quicker you fall, you actually gain momentum. So the quicker you learn how to fall, the faster you can go. That momentum begins to, you know, propel and excel itself. So yeah, this is deep, brother. I'm going to scale it down, not necessarily, not critiquing the work, because all of your work is magnificent. Let's go back to those Beats headphones.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, let's talk about this, because I saw a documentary piece on this. So let's just, you know, briefly touch base on that.
Yeah, you know, to tell the truth, I've seen in my own life, I can't speak for everybody else, is just an individual perspective, manifestation, you know, where you think of something, as something imprints your mind, your brain, in your spirit. I'll have these instances where something resonates within me, right? And that week, I mean, this is a later project with Beats, but I went to my buddy Evan Nat, good dude. You know, his fiance was having a birthday party, and it was up at the W in Hollywood, and I went to my friend's house before that, and I saw this one part of the documentary called Defiant Ones, and they interviewed Dr. Dre and stuff like that. And I saw one segment of it. I think it was a 4-part, 1 hour each, whatever. I saw 1 of 4 because I don't have HBO, but I saw it at a friend's house. And it kind of brought me back to the old school hip hop, you know, because they talked about Eazy-E, they talked about Dre, and they even talked about, you know, like some of the trials and tribulations that Dre went through that I didn't even know about, you know what I mean? Like, I guess his, you know, his brother died, and, you know, his son died, and, you know, he went through some things that I didn't really, you know, and I don't think he really gave interviews and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things I didn't even know, you know, but I was at this party. I didn't know too many people at the party, but I remember looking over on Hollywood, and then I remember thinking about being a defiant one, just kind of not, almost being antisocial, right? But then I felt this instant. It was, I'm going to say it's spiritual, you know, because it felt like something was going to happen. You know, I look back, and there was a billboard that said the Defiant Ones, because, you know, it was circulating. So I'm not saying it mysteriously appeared there, right? But it kind of felt like, man, it's a trip. Like, I feel like a defiant one, you know, like where, like, you guys are disrupting the status quo, right? Disrupt, because we are these outliers, correct?
Right.
You know, we think outside the box, right?
Right.
And so I felt like this outlier or defiant one. And then it's DEF, defiant one. Right. So yeah, so I was kind of tripping on that. And, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I would say a week later, Roger Gassman reached out to me and said, hey, this guy Casey Ryder from Beats by Dre wants to see if you want to do a project, right? And I was like, what, Beats? You know, I kind of drew the parallel, you know? And I was like, man, that's like a manifestation. And so that became, you know, did the 2018 All-Star game, you know, exclusive. And these ones right here are for my friend Brian Ortega, UFC fighter, you know. And yeah, that dude is a savage, man, in a good way. You know, he's a hell of a fighter, hell of a human being, giving back to the community. You know what I mean? A good role model, you know. And we did this as a specialized project, you know. And that it just goes to show, like, you know, I think that sometimes you can manifest things and it could happen, man. If you believe, you can achieve, you know. And you know,
Yeah, I was just going to add to what you're saying, as far as like, one thing is to believe, right? And then the other thing is to know and trust in yourself. But then that's when the next factor comes in too. Again, preparedness, opportunity when they collide. So
yeah, exactly.
And one was prepared, and you're like, yeah, I can do this project. It's almost like they want to meet each other. The two forces want to meet. It's just making it happen. But yeah, this is great. I mean, your work is inspirational. It shows that, you know, graffiti, which I don't know how you feel about, you know, the term graffiti, especially because some of your art is featured in major galleries and exhibited in major galleries, and you've done such amazing work. But I want to add that because your work, you know, has the fusion of all of those things and characteristics and styles, as you said earlier in the interview, it also puts you on this stage to influence up and coming artists and just youth in general. So I know that there's a lot of artists out there listening to you and watching you right now. What would you say to them? Like, what advice would you give to them?
I mean, art, you know, that's the one thing about art. I mean, it's a gift and a curse, right? You know, because, you know, a lot of times to be great in anything, you have to really be kind of crazy, right? You have to be obsessive about your work, and you know, and to jump into, you know, that that paradox, so to speak. It could be a dark place also, right? You know, and you have to be passionate about it, and you can't do it for like, oh yeah, I just want to get a job and, you know, make money, because if that money doesn't come in, you're not going to do it. You have to do it regardless, you know. So that's why very few people make it in visual arts and stuff like that, because if you don't have passion for it, you're just going to give up at the first, you know, first or second speed bump. You have to be able to do a complete solo show and not sell anything. You know, you might, you know, spend 2 years on that show, not sell anything, but get back on your horse and saddle up and go hit another show. You know, I mean, you have to have a relentless spirit, you know, and some inner drive. And that's the thing where, you know, sometimes, you know, your family life, even your mind goes crazy. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, you know, you could go into those dark places and, you know, I think with the gift and the curse, you have to figure out that balance, you know. And like you've seen it in lives of DMX and Tupac, and, you know, they weren't just, you know, they were writing that same thing, that same recklessness that made them outliers to stand up and be legendary, can also be a double-edged sword too, right? They fell into some deep, dark things, and so it's a slippery slope, you know, and it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? You have to, you know, figure out what you want to do, balance in life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, but I am a proponent of education, because I think there's a lot of, you know what I mean? You get silver lining. You know, you show up on time. Get projects done. You know what I mean? There's silver lining. You may not use everything. You're not gonna walk around, if you're an artist, you know, using the quadratic equation, right? You know what I mean? But I think just forging your mind, you know, if you're in school, stay in school. You know what I mean? Because I think, you know, knowledge is key. You know what I mean? If you could harness knowledge and you know, but I mean, I'm probably a hypocrite because I'm known for stupidity too. You know what I mean?
Right. But you did graduate though, right? You
I did, yeah.
CSUN.
I graduated. Yeah, CSUN. Yeah, I graduated with honors, actually, you know. Started from nothing. I had math 84 for Asian, you know what I mean? Like, that's like basic math.
Hey, you
and
good. You good.
Yeah, and I went all the way up to statistics, and math and English were difficult, but yeah, I did good. And you know, I like to thank my ex-wife too. She helped me out.
Yeah, man. And we're proud of you, brother. We're proud of you. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the audience if they want to submit any other questions to ask. Please do so now. This is my time now, brother. And again, just thank you, brother. And I know, and this is what I mean about art, right? Because you have to have a passion and a drive to get to where we want to be to. So
yeah, man.
Mad respects, brother. Mad respects. This is my time now. So thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure, brother. I'm going to hand it over to Steve. Thanks again. And we'll chat afterwards. Thank you.
Right, cool. Thank you, DEFER. This is inspirational, and I feel like I've come to like appreciate my inner force when creating art, and I feel like that speaks for everybody, right? Whenever you're trying to create a piece, it's always that mystical kind of force driving you to do that. Yeah, exactly. Now we're gonna like go to the Q&A session. There are 3 questions that people submit. I'm just gonna run through them in order. So first question, at times the pattern of your artwork looks like a flowing script. Is your work inspired by scripts, ancient or modern, or your own images?
That's a very good question, because there's a lyric that really caught my attention, and it's on this track called Thankful by DJ Khaled, and Lil Wayne said, "Be now, be ancient. Be now, be ancient." So I think sometimes when I look at my stuff, it looks ancient, but at other times I feel it's futuristic. So sometimes I feel like I'm channeling from an ancient spirit that goes back to the scribes, right? From, you know, Asiatic calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy, and, you know, just different calligraphic forces. And then sometimes it feels like I'm channeling, something that's from beyond. And that's where I say the spiritual, where I can't explain it, right? And there are definitely, I think I'm, obviously, someone created these letter patterns, and that's the first thing we learn in our life, right? We learn how to write our name, right? And then the signature, right? Signature. So your signature, every time you sign a contract, you buy a car, you sign your name, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, you sign your name. So, that could be like a tag, this is Steve, you know what I mean? His tag. And so we all have to sign. That's why they say the pen is mightier than the sword. You know what I mean? So am I inspired? You know what? To tell the truth, if you see my work, I try to empty my mind. You know what I mean? So it's not clouded. So I could just channel, So I kind of, obviously I didn't make up the letter form. So I have to, when I do the structured letters, I try to keep an A within, where you can see it. But then I also obliterate it. And that is really not, I think that's more of something that comes from within and beyond that particular aspect. So
yeah, and I feel like it kind of goes with your obliterating the letter, the things that you said in many of your interviews, spiritual and stuff. Right. Next question. This is also the question that I really want to ask you too. How much does spirituality affect your creative process, and what does your process look like? Where do these ideas come intuitively to you?
That's a good question. So that's one thing that I don't do is mostly I don't do preliminary sketches. Like I do it right on the spot, like where I just, where someone says, how's it going to look? I mean, you can't really predict the future. You know what I mean? Like, how's it going to, I mean, I guess if you're going to do a portrait or something, yeah, you want to see how good you could render the portrait. This has nothing to, certain aspects of my art are purely done. It's almost like, how would I equate it to? Almost like you ever see a battle rap or whatever, where they just kind of are on the spot and they're battling?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like, that's how I work. It's like, I have to think about, if I'm battling you, I'm going to think about things like maybe, I might rap about your headphones, your hat, and it's kind of like this free flowing thing. So that's where my process is very unorthodox, and it's very spontaneous. It's almost like we're okay. I'm gonna kind of go off on a tangent, but you asked about spirituality. As I stated earlier, I believe, this is just my personal opinion, spirit just means the unknown. You know what I mean? It's that force, that unknown. Like, when someone says soul, right? Oh, that came from the soul. But the soul isn't a physical thing where it's like your arm's there, your heart's there, your mind's there, your eyes are there, but they can't say, oh, that's your soul, right? It's like,
it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's just, so it's like one of those words where it's like the unseen and the unknown. And for me to articulate it and tell you what it is, I can only say it's a personal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interpretation of it, or my perspective. So I wouldn't want to say that, you know what I mean? But all I'm saying is this unseen force is definitely a force that I try to channel. I try to channel it and harness it. And I could feel like, I guess, I'm trying to draw these analogies, like, when a basketball player is in the zone and they're hitting 3-point shots, or Kobe's in the zone, you know what I mean? Michael, you know what I mean? They're in this zone.
Oh yeah, they're feeling it.
Yeah, the flow state. And that's where, I think I hit, because there were certain things when I went to college and I was discovering, like, what are you going to do with art? I remember, I call him my Sifu, Bruce Lee, one of my greatest influences in my life. And one thing he said was, honestly express yourself. Honestly express yourself. I can't say
Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee.
Honestly express yourself. And sometimes if I'm doing something and it's like someone tells me, I might just try to be nice, and someone say, oh, can you draw me a car? you know, or draw me can you draw a pork? I mean, because some people just don't, you know what I mean? They, you know, they just, oh, can you draw me a tattoo pattern on my dog or something?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, sometimes I'll be nice and try to draw something, but it doesn't feel like I'm honestly expressing myself. Does that make sense? I'm appeasing somebody, but I'm not honestly expressing myself. And my thing is, when I do that calligraphy and I empty my mind, you know, like Bruce Lee says, be formless, be shapeless. You put water in a cup, it becomes a cup. You know what I mean? Water could flow or it could crash. Be like water, my friend. You know what I mean? I use that to the core. I mean, I feel like when I'm going, I feel like I'm water. You know, I could flow or I could crash. It's the formlessness, it's the shapelessness, it's the void. The void, it's emptying your mind. Is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really inspirational.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to this third question. What factors do you consider when selecting the commissions and collaborations you decide to pursue? That kind of try to like ask the last bit of things that you just said, right?
Yeah, you know, that's a tough one because you know, that's a one thing about living in society. You got to eat, right? You know what I mean? Like your bills aren't going to pay themselves, right? I wish they would, right? Maybe some people maybe some people inherit a kingdom, right? They don't got to pay bills, but you know, a lot of what I do, I have to self-support myself, and yeah, that's the one thing about life. You know, these opportunities are gonna come up where, you know, people want to commission you for your work and stuff like that. And I think I'm a people pleaser. I say yes to so many things, you know what I mean? Just because I think, you know, because I think at the end of the day, most people are nice, you know what I mean? They want to, you know, hire you. And then it's always this war of in your mind, you know, of appeasing people and you know, and obviously, you know, I think you know, some people have no idea what the art cost or what, you know what I mean, what even the toll of it, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's one thing where I would be bad at giving advice on what I pick and what I don't pick, because you know, because I do a lot of my self-management and stuff, and it's so crazy now with like social media and email and everything. I can't even keep track of it all, you know, everything. And you know, and like my life has been pretty chaotic. I mean, it's been like back to back to back to back, you know. And you know, but I would be bad at, like, I would say, you know, when you're picking things, like, I mean, like I said, like me and Esteban Oriol, we work together, we're homies, we work together good, you know, we collaborated several times. It's something that works, you know, and it's fun. And that's where you got to enjoy. That's the one thing, because art could be a solitary, you know, career or whatever. You kind of, because you're in your own zone. I mean, you know, even if you do like digital art or vectorizing, that's like editing, you know what I mean? Editing's crazy. You know, you could spend 8 hours for 2 minutes, you know what I mean?
Looking at a screen all the time for the whole day.
Yeah, and then people just see it like, oh, that's cool. But what it takes to edit that, you know what I mean, on Premiere, or you know what I mean, or whatever. I used to use Final Cut Pro, and I kind of mend these together and put it on QuickTime Pro because it was 750 and higher, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I mean, I respect that. I respect the creative process from I've learned a little bit of all of it, and I've learned to respect all of it. Everything everybody does is, I mean, that's what we have to do. I mean, we're striving for greatness. I mean, everybody's going to have a calling, and some of us are going to be wolves, and some of us are going to be sheeps.
Yeah. So basically, like, yeah, I totally agree. Like, it can be a solitary thing, or like collaboration, where like solid connections. I feel like. Yeah.
So we've run out of time, but this has been an awesome hour of conversation. Thank you so much, DEFER, for sharing so much of your soul with us today, letting us into these intimate spaces where you think about your work and your inspiration and what got you here. We're just so proud to have had you as our guest today. And thank you, Gustavo and Steve, also for co-hosting this program with us today.
I want to say one thing. I want to thank UCLA, the Fowler, DISRUPT. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing, inspiring and creating, cultivating, motivating, and thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone who joined us. This program has been recorded. It'll be available immediately on the Fowler's Facebook, and in a few days, it'll be uploaded to our Instagram and on our website for you to revisit and share. And in the meantime, we hope that you will join us for our next program. Details can be found on the closing slide. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.